Okay, so we're going out at the moment, currently with that slide, and let it roll to 15. Hey, so welcome to Neon District Weekly. This is our first run of our weekly show that here at Blockade Games. This studio that we've built for you will be running a quick show, 20 minutes, we're hoping, every week to run through the latest developments in the Neon District universe. So I've actually got Chris up there for some reason as the active speaker. But I was about to say, the person who I will be sharing the stage with for the upcoming weeks is in fact Marguerite, which I should be able to jump over to here. So
Yep. Hey guys.
Awesome. Oh.
And happy to be here with you, Kyle and Chris.
Awesome. Let's go around and do introductions then. So I'm Kyle. I'm an art director on a game called Neon District. It's a cyberpunk RPG that does some really interesting things that I'm sure we'll go into in great depth in this chat. And with us, who you briefly saw at the start of the show, we have Chris Chapman, right here, who is the executive producer at Blockade Games, and he's going to be our first guest for this show. So,
Sweet.
You have got that privilege, Chris. Awesome. So probably a good place to start here. So we're going out on Twitch. We're going out on Twitch. So there's probably a lot of people out there who don't know anything about Neon District. They don't know, apart from what I've said, it's a cyberpunk RPG. However, it's been in development for quite a long time, and I don't know, seeing as we've got the co-founder of Blockade Games here, it would be great to obviously hear from yourself, Marguerite, and go into a bit of depth about how this game came to be.
Yeah. I guess I have a gaming and art background and found myself into the cryptocurrency space back in 2013. And over the last 6 years, basically have been making educational, interactive experiences that bridge gaming with blockchain technology. And over the past 2 years, we launched Blockade about 2 years ago, and we started picking up some incredible talent, such as who's on the show, Chris Chapman, our executive producer, and yourself, Kyle, our art director. Anyways, this team has come together, and now we've been shipping these past 2 years just more, I guess, professional products as opposed to just the educational free experiences we had before. And Neon District is the bridging of all of the things we've learned to build a free-to-play blockchain game. And that has come out of a place as like a gamer and my gamer background. If you've ever grinded in a game like World of Warcraft and then you lost hundreds of hours from that gameplay and then you just move on to a next game, you get a little burned out. So what we realized with blockchain and what it allows us to have is these collectible assets. So you can grind and play these games, create value, and they don't you can realize that investment of your time and your money. You don't have to leave it just trapped in the application. So that's basically what we set out to do with Blockade. And Neon District is it's a cyberpunk RPG that's inspired by Final Fantasy a little bit in game design. There's a lot of other influences too, like Summoner's War, and I'm sure Chris will talk more about this. But it definitely has the heavy art aesthetic because of the collectible nature of these assets. So if you look at any of our content, you'll find that it's beautiful. I think we've heard time and again that we're going to take over the world with desktop backgrounds. But so yeah, I think like at a high level for people that don't know anything about what we're doing is we want gamers to come and play Neon District like it is just any other game, and then eventually realize that their game assets, their characters, gear, weapons, they have monetary value associated with them that they can realize and cash in at some point in the game. But our goal is that the game and the art was all going to be such a great experience that wasn't what we were leading with. And, as we're launching our season 1 game, which is coming on Steam December 9th, we've really, I think, lined ourselves up to do that. So I'm really excited to kind of show the world what we've been doing.
Awesome, brilliant. So back to the studio. So as you touched upon, we've got some absolutely amazing art talent currently working on the project. As art director, I have the pleasure of every day interacting and communicating with all the guys and girls we have working on the project. And I believe further down the line with this series, we're actually going to be bringing the likes of Hardy Fowler, Diego Rodriguez into the studio to talk about the work that they've put together, because it is, as you said, it has got such a distinct style. As you said, with all the wallpapers, that is the amount of concept art that we have that I'd happily have cakes on all of the monitors in this room. It's there's a lot, and it's exciting to have that kind of arsenal in the background to be able to kind of shoot out and spread with hopefully the many people that are going to be following this project here onward. So I guess that brings us into drawing the spotlight even towards our main guest here. So in terms of what an art director does, and I guess to kind of put it out there, it's not this. Like I don't do this. I direct people that are creating art. But what does Chris? What does an executive producer do?
What does an executive producer do? That's right. It's typically they have their fingers in all the pies everywhere, right? And they are guiding and making decisions as the team is building all of the different parts of the game, right? So when you're making a game, it's this amazing blend of art and technology, right? And so because of the diverse nature of those two fields, you've got a lot of these complicated intersection points, right? Where someone who's really good at art isn't obviously going to be very good at programming too. I mean, those people exist, but in general, your artists aren't going to know anything about writing like C++, right? And so you need people that kind of overlap and bridge and can guide and can pluck out all of these little inner department dependencies, right? So the programmer can't put in any like UI art until the artist actually develops the UI art, and then we don't know what the artist is going to make until we design the game. And so then we know what the buttons are, what they look like, what they do, all the hookups. Then they get client and server, and you've got it's a big pile of machinery that needs to press forward in one direction, and it's tricky to navigate that. And it's very easy to fall into holes if you've never done it before. And surprise issues come up all the time, and it's life of producer's never done. Like that's basically how it works. I'm all the time talking to all the people constantly.
And I was going to ask, how did you get into becoming an executive producer? What was your pathway to getting there?
I started way back in the mid 90s at an interactive ad agency. And so that's where I learned how to ship, right? Because if you think about it, we were building like digital ads. So back then it was like CD-ROMs and, very early. We had to ship things for clients, and you needed to ship like every month or 3. And you just constantly ground out all these things. So you learn how to package a product and ship it out. And then in the early 2000s, I got into games, started building and making. And my background in general is art plus tech. So I can myself basically gap fill places in a studio. Meaning, if art needs help, I can step in and help art. If design needs help, I can step in and help design. If engineering needs help, basically. And so because of that, I was able to get a broad swath view of the entire game, right? Entire studio, everywhere. I can walk into any meeting and contribute. And so that kind of just drew a through line through my work at Disney, where I was running the professional services team for a MMO platform for all the internal games in Disney. Like it just basically wound my way to, oh, hey, I understand all the parts and I can help in all the different areas. And because of that, I'm a handy guy, I guess.
Awesome. One thing that I'd probably draw attention to. So in the corner here, we do have a chat box that I think we had one comment a minute ago. And what I'll do is I'll stay on the screen for a while, so we'll try and get some more comments, because I think it refreshes. But no, I guess the leading question, or the question leading on from that, would be, what excites you like the most about working on Neon District? Because as you said, everything you say, you have your ear on the ground in almost every department. So yeah. you know what's happening across the whole board here. What is the thing that you look forward to the most with this project?
So aside from the genre, which is stupidly cool, cyberpunk, like the whole, like all of that is amazing. But underneath of that, the critical piece of technology that enables it, what I love is the blockchain part. Because you can have these individual items in your like inventory or whatever, and because they can be discretely represented as an individual piece, and it's not tied to the game, but the game uses it, which means that by necessity you have to trim all of these dependencies around that item. So it has to be like this little self-contained thing, just by necessity. And when that happens, what you can do is then all of a sudden you're able to effectively level that item, right? And so with our game, what we've done is we've enabled that leveling of these items, but the design we're using is super, super crazy innovative. I haven't seen anything like it. So your path, instead of a typical skill tree, it ends up being like an infinite skill tree based on as you make choices, and as you use your items, and as you level it up, it can grow in different ways. And so my what's a cool item I have? My drone, like those little Wonderball drones. Yeah. Like my Wonderball drone is going to be way different than Marguerite's Wonderball drone, because I've chosen a different path. I've done different things with it. I've pumped different experience into it. Like it's in 3 months or whatever, after it's leveled to max level, like they're going to look completely different, but they're the same item at heart, right? And so that spreads across everything: characters, items, like armor, like weapon, like all this stuff. And so what you end up having at the end of the day is this super broad design space to play in. And you've got just like acres of room, and it's also super tall, right? Because you can level them, all of them differently. It's like the sheer space that you have to design a strategy for your team, right? Plucking and pulling all of these different little pieces and assembling them. Oh, this guy is going to be my stealth guy. It's like skill-based advancement, like, but times a billion, right? I mean, it's crazy. It's super crazy cool. And so the underlying design of all of it, just coupled with like the cyberpunk, like nano, high tech plus, melee weapons, like, it's so cool. Like the whole thing is just super cool.
Awesome.
Did Did I even answer
I know,
your
yeah, I
question?
know. Like the thing is, I know, I get it. I was going to follow up to that. What is your favorite character currently in the game? What is have you picked your factions yet?
Oh my gosh. That's hard. Because I can't, so my favorite character in the game is it's the cog Saz. Um, but I can't tell anybody why he's my favorite character because it's super secret.
Yeah, that stays in the wiki for now, I think.
Yeah, yeah. He's like so in the piece that you'll see with him is he's part of our tutorial, and he helps teach you how to engage in the combat. Right, it's sort of how the flow of combat works. He describes our tick system and like all of these things. And but like you get if you're careful and you're paying attention, you get a clue that he's crazy, ridiculous, more than he seems. But it's this secret little hidden thing that nobody's really going to pay attention to. But he's so badass.
I totally agree. I guess one thing to bring everyone's attention to, Neon District is actually on Steam now. So here we are. This is the Steam page. You can add it to your wish list and get all the updates. Yeah, go ahead.
These assets and the leveling. Is there any way we could show maybe? I mean, we need to talk a little bit about what's going on with, I guess, selling these assets. Do we want to touch on that and maybe even show some of the the lookbook?
So we've got it's public sale this weekend, and we've got a few different characters lined up. I guess to contextualize it. So in Neon District, we have a world of corporations and syndicates, and the first characters that are going to be, I guess. And this is the reason why we've got Chris here, because he's written some brilliant fan fiction behind this. But we're essentially going to look at the lower levels first. We're going to have a look at the kind of the players in the district, the rougher edges. So the syndicates that operate in those rougher edges, and then we're going to work up all the way to the big players. There are what we call the big five. So we've got one called Ceres, one called Hume, which is kind of an engineering corporation. We've got Factor, we've got Xeno, and we've got Bliss. So there's a schedule, I believe, floating around as to the when we're going to kind of dive into each one. The two that we have got going out this weekend. Let me just bring up. So there's this syndicate, so it's called the Vice Squad, and obviously they deal in vices. So they're kind of these quite not necessarily bland, but they kind of blend in, and that's what gives them a bit of an edge. They've got a series of different looks here. Got this very interesting, almost like Texas Walker Ranger style in the middle. But essentially, these are quite a serious operation. They deal in all sorts of different criminal activities. We've got like narcotics, a very business focused as well. They operate quite a few like drug dens, brothels, and other similar illicit operations. These are quite an interesting syndicate, and one that I'm really looking forward to seeing develop, not only in season one, but beyond. They're a really, really cool idea to work with, and a cool visual style. So moving on from that, we've also got the Leatherheads, which is the second of the four syndicates that we're going to be, introducing in season one. So obviously this style is a bit more easier to kind of draw from in terms of influence. It's definitely got a very clear punk influence, that kind of Mad Max Road Warrior style, and so these are the brutes. They're a bit more straightforward in their ways of getting what they want. is probably the most simple way of putting it. So these are the ones that have, or these are the two syndicates that we're going to be introducing alongside Chris's fan fiction this weekend. And I'm sure, seeing as we have Chris on the line here, if you could explain to us a brief synopsis. I don't know whether we're going to follow through with our initial plan to make you read it in your best Orson Welles voice, but I don't know.
My voice is terrible.
I've got a section picked out if we do want to read any of it.
All right, you have to read it though. It's your job, not mine. I read it.
I can't. How about I read 2 paragraphs, small paragraphs?
Okay.
All right. This is from.
Okay, so that's this week. This is new stuff.
Is that okay? I'm gonna give. It's fine. So this is from week 1. This is from the quarter. Do you want to say anything about the quarter, Chris?
Actually, some context about how Neon District and Unity fit together is probably a good thing. Okay. So it's a cyberpunk world. It's super futuristic, all the cool tech. It's after a big catastrophe, and humanity is basically balled up in this little area. That's grossly simplifying a lot of stuff, but Dave will kill me for saying that. But anyway, you've got the city of Unity, which is very, think of it like the machines have finally been enslaved and do everything now. So humans don't have to do anything at all. They just play all day because all the work is done by machines. And that's inside the city of Unity. And just outside the city of Unity is where like all the chaos happens, right? The people who are creating and designing products for the people inside of Unity to consume, basically. And it's super cutthroat. And out there, it's like World War III, right? I mean, everybody's just fighting everybody, and there's these corporations run all the things, and they have the syndicates as muscle, and like that's where all the conflict and drama is in Neon District, which is outside of Unity. So the quarter is a particular part of Neon District, and that's where the majority of season 1 is set. Say the majority, but the majority of season 1 is set in the quarter. And so this particular bit of fiction that we're going to read, and it's canon, it's not fan fiction, it's canon, it's real, so there's that. But this particular part happens in the quarter inside of the industry. Sorry, go ahead.
Actually, I love this story, the 2 stories that come out with the week 1 release. So you guys should definitely check it out. But the one I wanted to read was, so there's this character called Red Hat. And if you go to our Steam page, you can see a banner that's up. He craved a taste of her celebrity. All that interested him was the acquisition part of her title. When do you think you'll be able to push to our servers? Red Hat purred, more than asked the question. Surely Bliss would willingly shell out a little extra if he could trace down a credible counter offer. Help him max out his multisig. I have to run through some regressions, Paladin replied after a moment's pause. Finish up some docs, that sort of thing. I want to make sure your people understand how to install it. It goes on to talk about Blit nanites and Ghost, which is, I think, his headset, and just some fun tech features that Chris has woven throughout the story, which is very fun because if anyone of the audience is familiar with Snow Crash or Neil Stevenson and that sort of writing, I really enjoy how understanding the tech in the world and how it works, and the different characters use it for their different careers and, I guess, tasks. So it's fun because I can start to visualize how my own characters and how I will level them or make them more unique, and the different items that and gear I want them to have. it's cool. I've never had a game where I've actually the story and the world and the universe were so interwoven, and the art, right? So like bringing Snow Crash to life and then playing these characters, it's pretty exciting for me as being a total geek. Kyle, I don't know if you want to talk any more about. I feel like we should show some of that lookbook we just published for the founder sale that's going on right now with some of the characters, because they're the game regs.
Yeah, that's probably a super important thing to point out, is that like I was talking about earlier, where you can, like, all these individual assets live by themselves and they can level by themselves and they behave independently of everything. Because of that, we can do crazy things. Like this week, we are founder specific weapons and items, and founders being our core, like our biggest fans. Like these are the guys that have been with us for years now, and like the whole group of them are awesome. And so we want to do this this thing for them, specifically for them. And so we created this whole set of armor that is all fun and funky and filled with inside jokes and all that kind of stuff. But we're doing it, and it's only this week. And so the pieces of armor that are getting created this week that's the only time that this armor is ever going to be created ever. Like, so when you're playing Neon District on Steam or whatever next summer, like, and you see somebody wearing this armor, like, you know exactly who they are and where they came from and how OG they are, because nobody can get that armor ever again, right? Like, and you can do this once we have blockchain. And so that's probably the most important piece about this week, is that this stuff is only getting minted this week, and it's for our biggest fans, right? And me, I'm a gamer and a game developer, and I love like all this community stuff, and so I wanted desperately to do something cool like this for our guys. So we should definitely show that off.
I was going to say we're pushing almost half an hour, and going through the kind of concepts and all of those pieces. That's another show. That's another show you might get in between our schedule. Maybe I'd be quite keen to do that.
All right.
So
yeah, I blame Marguerite. She's done all the talking this whole thing.
Absolutely.
Well, I think, Kyle, I think we should at least show some of the epic. One look at maybe one background or some of our high polished art.
This is like, to be honest, this is the first time I've used XSplit. So I'm trying to work out how I do this like mid flow. This could end. I mean, if you could fill the next 2 minutes maybe, or
I can.
I'll follow up on my proposition. I'll put in an extra show, and I'll run through some of the art, and we'll get some out on the Twitter and. Oh yeah, actually, no, that's a good point. What that Cy Bourgeoisie has said about printing out the pictures, because I've actually got a few of the concept pieces printed out, and I might be able to get them and bring them down.
Oh, watch this.
So this is really pushing what you can do live. But I'll quickly go get them.
Do it, Kyle. Do it.
Do it, Kyle. It's amazing.
So I guess it's important to note that our first public sale goes live on Saturday. We've never done anything public. Like all of our game releases have all been private, with just a very internal group that's called founders, people that have special access, basically the earliest backers of Blockade. So on Saturday we get to participate publicly for the first time. We're all really excited about it.
Okay. So I don't actually have a full page thing that brings me up in my entirety, so I'm gonna have to share with everyone from this tiny little box at the bottom. But essentially, what Chris was talking about with the whole kind of variation between that kind of central unity structure and the areas that surround it. It's kind of like almost like the haves and the have-nots. So This is one concept piece that our environment concept designer Hardy, who we'll be interviewing later on in this podcast series. This is something that between myself and him we came up with just to show that. So as Chris said, I mean this structure here doesn't fully block people from going between Unity and Neon Districts, but you have to be a certain. I'm not sure I want to go too much into edits without Dave by my side.
You have to be fancy. You have to be fancy to get outside.
Yeah, you have to be fancy to get outside. And however, there's all this infrastructure along the walls that facilitate this transit. So those are those two. There are two more on the wall, but I might save them for next time.
That's a deal.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yes.
Anyway,
thanks for getting it.
Yeah, that's fine. I want a poster. I'm not sure.
Right.
Like, actually saying that, you look at the books where they produce the full, was it the Art of Blade Runner, for example? I'd like to think that one day, given the amount of work that Hardy and Diego and all the other contractors we have put into it, I'd love to see. Love to see a book, but
that's the plan. I feel like these stories and the art that we've been putting together. I was telling Chris, they kind of remind me of a blend between Black Mirror episodes in cyberpunk setting. But I think like eventually we'll probably have like a comic sort of series to go alongside just the game development art. I mean, at least, yeah. I think at least we'll have that.
Oh, but I mean,
we have this enormous, rich universe. Like you could build stories in any corner of it, and it'd be super interesting. It's really well put together, and we can't go without mentioning Dave, right? So Dave is the impetus behind lots of this, constructing lots of the world, and it's fantastic. He's done such a good job. We're gonna have him on the show later too, right? He's gonna be a guest. He has to.
Yeah,
be a guest,
he is.
right?
I believe. Does anyone have the schedule?
We'll figure it out.
We'll repost it. I guess one thing before we shoot off, or not shoot off, because when I go over to the States, I mean that's the term that I use when I'm over here in the UK. I'm just like, yeah, I got to go somewhere, but then I do it in the States, and they're just like, I'm sorry, what? But before we zap off and do something else, it's probably the more Neon District term. Before we zap off and get on with art directing and producing and leading, one thing that's probably worth pushing people towards. So we have our website, which outlines has got some really cool concept art in the background and whatnot, and a bit more about the game, and some links to Steam, where you can learn a bit more about the game, and you can add it to your wish list, which is this little button down here, the big green one that said add to wish list. So you can pop that button there, and you'll receive updates from the team about the progress leading up to the release. So I think that's it. I think that is all the buttons I have here to press.
Well done, Kyle. This is great.
We've made it. We've made it without any serious trauma.
And we didn't look like rookies at all, right, Marguerite?
If there's anything to take from this one, is we've got to start on the dot. As soon as that clock reaches was it 11 Eastern, we've got to be broadcasting.
Yep.
No other feedback. Anyway, let's wrap it up then. So make sure I don't know what the subscription or whatever it is on Twitch. I don't know what you have to press to follow us on Twitch, but give that a push as well, so you know next time that we're broadcasting. So we're set to broadcast every Tuesday in the lead up to season 1 at 11 Eastern, which is 4:00 in the UK, and some awful hour in the Pacific.
What is it? 8:00 a.m. I think something.
I know.
all the early.
Yep, and then stay tuned for we're going to be rolling out some big announcements throughout this week as we prepare for our public launch. Well, public launch, the sale. The sale on Saturday. Yeah.
Awesome. Anyway, it's goodbye from me.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Bye, Kyle.
it.
Bye, Chris. Bye, everybody.
See ya.
Bye. I'll talk to you soon.